In the previous video, I turned this small angular pine bowl that is so thin, light shines through all over. That gave me the idea of making a lid for it and putting a light inside. I am seriously considering making a dome lid for this. And make it thin enough for light. But I don't know if I can do that on purpose. This lid is going to fit inside this and rest on it. The outer diameter of the bowl is 113 millimeters. I marked the center to measure from. So 57 would be 114. Oh, we're right there. We're in there. Boy, is that close. Right up to the edge here and here. Oh, what kind of a shape do I want? Pretty much the same profile. And maybe a finial. I have never done a finial. I've never done a lidded box, for that matter. I decided to make the top just like the bottom. $85 just happens to be exactly the size the tenon this is happiest with. So make it 86 to allow for sanding. Can't do much shaping because this monster chucks in the way, unless I stay inside it, which I can do if I want the heights equal. And I think I do. Aye. Pay attention. Let me stop thinking about this. How am I going to hold it to hollow this out? So just under 114 outside diameter down here. It looks like I'm about there. I don't know that I can come down to the diameter I want with that larger tenon. I want 85. I think this is 87. It is. So the top of this bowl will be wider than the bottom unless I make a smaller tenon and a different chuck. There's my tenon. Finish up the tenon with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge and a spindle detail gouge. Wanted this down to 85, 42 and a half. puts it that's the diameter at the top. That's the diameter at the bottom. We're close enough to it. Yeah, turn this on because it is a little dusty. Not enough to force me to use mask. I thought I could get away without using the air shield. I guess again, fool. I put the air shield back on and got back to work. That does not need sanding. Barely feel it in reverse. 180. I sanded 180, 240, and 320. Now, do I want to do anything about these? A few small cracks had appeared. I used a toothbrush and then a wire brush to see how deep and wide these cracks were. I don't know. This is 400. 400 rather than 320, only because the 400 is the first one my fingers touched. I decided to fill the tiny cracks with sanding dust and seal them with shellac. So this might have to come off. I don't have my sizes just right. That'll do to seal those cracks for now. I changed to the record power chuck with 2-inch jaws. Rubber band still should be in the right place. Now this is going to have a finial, so I don't have to worry about the point going through. Now do I want to put this in the tailstock and bore that hole all the way through? And it would be centered for the finial. I do. There's a little bit of play there. You can lock it either there or there. I think I decided over there is the right place. Yes, I'm going to go frontwards for this maneuver. good, no wobble so far. We're still in the old hole. Felt and wobble. So that original hole was not straight, was it? There's the bottom of it. That's all the way through. Trouble is, now I don't have a depth hole. Oh, brilliant. I would just have to be careful. I think spindle gap. As soon as I get my shield on. The angles don't quite match, and the new piece isn't quite small enough at the big end. Good up there. I came out too far before I got down to what I need the bottom to be, so this is going to end up probably just a little shorter than I intended. Because I had not intended to make a lidded box, the fit between the top and the bottom is not a calculated angular fit. It's a freehand curve that has to be met with another freehand curve. So from here on out, it's cut and try, cut and try, cut and try, until finally I had a fit I could live with. This will work, so now all I have to do is clean up that edge. And clean up that catch. It's nothing that can't be easily fixed. The outside has to come down just a little more for a smooth transition. I need to take a little more off, but just a little. Okay, I've got that so it fits. Considered a bead. Decided no bead. There is just a little bit more diameter here, but I haven't sanded it yet. Again, rounding off that corner, we'll mix that, and there'll be a little line there. That's okay. Oh, this grain's going to line up kind of nicely all the way around in this position. Too bad I can't make a key so that this will only go together one way, but no. Sanding time. Reverse. I started with 180, reverse and forward, and worked up through 400 on the inertial sander. Now comes the hard part, hollowing it thin enough, but without going through the sides. I'm going to sharpen my spindle gouge. Doing fine work on the wall all the way down. I forgot to turn the camera on after sharpening. After starting down with the spindle gouge, it occurred to me to use the light rather than my fingers to judge thickness. I readjusted the light position several times, trying to get the most illumination inside the bowl. I switched to a 1/2-inch scraper for the bottom. And then, because the sides are straight, I used a scraper on the side. Just as I did, you can watch the progress of the light working down the wall of the bowl. The scraper is doing a good job of removing material, but I go back to the spindle gouge to make it smooth and even. And back to the scraper to remove more wood from the bottom, or the top, or the bottom of the top, whatever. The deeper I go with the scraper, the higher the rest needs to be. And again, clean up with a spindle gouge. I kept alternating scraper and spindle gouge until the bottom, or top, was thin. I was curious to know if I could rely on the light illuminating the thick bottom of the bowl as an accurate measure of bottom thickness. I measured very carefully, checked it against the visual bottom going by the light. So I can go by the light as long as I stay thin like that. Not thin enough on the bottom yet. So back to the scraper to thin the bottom until it was thin enough I could see light through it. Sounding thin, looking thin. A couple of dark bands showed where the wall was just a little thicker in places. I decided to try to shear scrape it with a 3/8 bowl gouge, but I had to move the light to get it out of my way. That's good. I did not think I was going to be able to do this. I need to sand the inside, reverse, 180. I am pleased that I got away with that. So far anyway. It fits nicely last I checked. Yep. So shellac and axe. Take the tenon off. Oh boy, can hardly wait. And how am I going to do that? I'm not going to put the pressure here. This is going to go on a jam chuck inside, pressing on the underside of the tenon. I want to break this. Now I'll go wash the brush. Let that dry thoroughly, which means later. Well, it's been drying for about 3 hours. I'm going to sand it lightly with 320. Axe abrasive paste. Rub it in at a few hundred RPM until the grittiness disappears and it feels smooth. Wipe off the residue with a rag. And check to be sure you got it all off with a clean paper towel. Apply a thin coat of Axe polishing paste wax. And rub it in with enough speed to generate heat you can feel in your fingers through the cloth. I've learned to let the piece cool off before wiping off any residue. While the wax is still hot and soft, I'm afraid I'll rub it off. Still pretty warm. I'll let it cool for a minute. This gives me the idea of maybe making these larger for a plug-in electric light. But this occurred by accident. Happy accident. Thank you, Bob Ross. I cut round 8-inch blanks out of the remaining roughed out blanks of the same wood, so I could get some spindle blanks for turning finials. I thought it would take me 3 or 4 tries. One here. Because I'd never done finials, but I got it right on the first try. And maybe one here. Okay, back to the bandsaw. A little short, a little longer, and the best of the bunch. Now, do I want to start with the best of the bunch? Or do I want to practice on these losers? Having never turned a finial, that gripping tight enough? I just ran out of chuck travel. What I want to do is first bore a hole. I think this was 5/16. I've learned not to rely on memory on such things. 3/8. And this is just one example of why. If I drill a 1/4-inch hole first, then maybe an 1/8 a little farther, can get a light coming all the way up through the finial. It was a nice idea, but it didn't work. You would have to put a light in the finial to shine on the walls. The light from the end just shines on the other end. I didn't drill this one because I thought it was just going to be for practice. It's just as well. It was easier to drill it after I'd turned it. I completely ran out of jaw travel as I tightened this blank into the large chuck, so I considered using a smaller chuck to get a firmer bite. We'll try this one. Probably use this one. So I've got the 3/8 locked into here. Might want to go just a smidgen bigger and then work down to it. 25/64. I'm just going to play around with this. See what I can learn. Spindle gouge is freshly sharpened. Battery in my helmet's charged. Nothing special here, so I'll run it at 8x. Just spindle practice really. I had no intention of using this for a finial for the light box. Taking it little by little and checking it frequently. The maximum in wood turning is you can take wood off, but you can't put it back on. I put the caliper back to exactly 3/8. It's exactly what we have there. Don't know how long that is. Not bad for the very first finial. I wanted it practical. I wanted to be able something you can pull the lid up with without breaking it. Probably could be a little thinner. You need to sand that. The finial is so smooth, I sand it only with 320. And as I usually do, I sanded with the grain by hand just a little bit to remove any circular marks on the wood. Don't even need glue. Line the grain up as much as possible. Work on this. It almost looks kind of nice the way it is. This dovetail angle is almost the same as this. If I take it down just a little bit, I can get rid of this little chip out. So that's what I'll do next. Because regardless, I wish that one had a hole in it. That came out pretty darn well, I think. I still hadn't made up my mind really whether to turn the tenon off on a jam chuck or the flat disc. Almost okay right there. This old chuck I've retuned, retrimmed, and reused many times is still spinning fairly true. Now comes the iffy part. How close is this hole to dead center? If it's perfect, we can use the cone. If not, it goes clear through. So that leaves us with this, which can move around, and this, which can move around. I need a little hole in the center here. For that cone to settle into. Probably deep enough. Perfect fit. Not quite dead center, but certainly very close. Ace bolt, 1100. Now 1/2 inch spindle gouge. This is where I should just take it off and sand it. Too many times I try to get the last little bit and the bowl jumps off the lathe and shatters on the floor. Get some light through there, but taking it down thinner. That's still look to be about 3 mil. I'd rather have it 2. 4.5. Okay, that's definitely got to come down a little more. About 900. Okay, that's the kind of light we got coming through. Imagine if there were a hole in this to let light up into this. So that stem would be lit up too. Perhaps possible to put a hole in this even now with the drill press. I'm going to try that. There's a 1/4 inch hole in there, which is almost dead center, and it goes clear up into above this, but no light goes through. Probably because there's no light in there. It's just at it. So I don't need to do that. Yeah, do I want to use this one? I really don't know why not. That might be the way to go. First have to sand this. There's a little bit of a rise. This is 120. Easy does it. A little bit more. There it is. I glued the finial in with medium thick Starbond CA. Okay, I got to get this right the first time. And instantly. I put a coat of shellac on the unfinished surface and the finial, and it was done. Now I have to find a suitable battery-powered LED light for this. These pictures were taken using an ordinary LED headlamp. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.